Okay, I don't actually have to set the microphone up properly this evening, which is seems to be a recurring theme on here and on game night on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Hello, everybody. If you're just joining us, this is Sunday Night Live. I am your Master of Ceremonies, MJ Knight. Sir Stephen is the class and wit of civility. Awesome Lydia drips sass like no one else, and cool, suave Cyber Raiden is Cool Man Corey's protege. I figured best to open up as jovial as possible, because what we're about to go into, and unfortunately lightning has struck twice this week, I am very sad to say. Although Google has not actually confirmed this on their page, but then again, the news only just broke very recently, and that is the sad news that Jason David Frank, literally the face of Power Rangers, literally and figuratively, has sadly passed away. Hey, Sean. Now, I'm not going to read from any article at this particular time. I've put together a piece that I've literally had to put together on the fly. So, and I will try to remain composed, because Tommy Oliver was one of my heroes growing up. And I shall simply say, farewell, Green Ranger. It's something to remember that the actors behind the masks, capes, and even the helmets of our heroes are just as human as we are. They have their internal struggles, demons they're trying to overcome, getting over emotional breakups from long-term relationships, whether it be just a breakup or a divorce. Jason David Frank was going through his own troubles. The actor, best known for playing legendary Tommy Oliver in the Power Rangers franchise, won his first black belt in martial arts at age 12 years young and made the commitment of passing on the code of the dragon through teaching. He became the Green Ranger at 19 years young, which was only meant to be for 14 episodes, as he was supposed to become Cybertron in what later became VR Troopers. Brad Hawkins, who would go on to become Ryan in VR Troopers, was originally slated to become the White Ranger. But due to JDF's overwhelming popularity, he was brought back to the show, where he became the leader of the Power Rangers through Season 2 and 3 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Zeo Ranger Red 5 in Power Ranger Zeo, and he was the first Red Turbo Ranger before passing the role on to Selwyn Ward as TJ. JDF would return as the Red Zeo Ranger for the 10th anniversary episode Forever Red, alongside the original Mighty Morphin Red Ranger, Austin St. John, as Jason. From that point, we wouldn't see JDF as Tommy again until Power Rangers Dino Thunder as a mentor figure at first, before getting back to action as the Black Dino Ranger. He would appear at other notable anniversary episodes, particularly the 20th anniversary, where he would reprise his role again in his Green Ranger outfit, and then returning again for the 25th anniversary with a Master Morpher, reprising all his former Ranger suits and even bringing back the Falcon Zord, which had not been seen since the Alien Rangers arc at the end of Season 3, which was a nice little moment because I happen to be a fan of the Falcon Zord. Along with fellow Power Ranger legendary alumni Amy Jo Johnson, they appeared as cameos in the 2017 reboot of the movie franchise as residents of Angel Grove. From what I knew and saw of Jason from interviews and social media posts, he was someone that loved life and exuded energy and love for said life. From what reports have come in, it is said it was by suicide that he died. Now, some will make the argument that's a selfish and cowardly way to go out. But what people don't take into consideration is what the person is suffering internally. I think until we know what makes someone make that permanent decision, no one has the right to judge them. They just want to end their pain. But, vicariously, you can save a life. just by talking to them and getting them to open up. There's a quote I've seen float around on Facebook from time to time. I would much rather stay awake all night listening to your story rather than hear it at your eulogy. Folks, I don't like to get too heavy on this show, but if you know, or someone you know, is going through a tough time, or is contemplating ending their life, reach out and talk. The simplest gesture and conversation can easily make the difference between life and death.
And if you are suffering from depression, don't be afraid to seek help.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Jason?
You're never alone.
Jason?
Professional help can always be like the best option to go with, I'd say.
Agreed, Mr. Noir. Jason, you were a hero to many. If only someone could have saved you. Your candle may have burnt out, but the memory will still burn. Rest in peace, sir. To our own Green Ranger in training, Raiden, is there something you'd like to say?
Man,
If you
when I
don't,
first heard about the news,
Mhm.
I did not want to believe it. I really didn't. Man, shit. We just lost Kevin Conroy, and you gotta go through this shit again. It's another childhood hero. Damn.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I don't know what there's anything else to say. I mean, I think we all can agree that this guy, Deku Chika Yalda, he was our hero.
Yep.
Hmm.
It was a TV show to a lot of, like, you know, some people, but to us, he was the type of guy to look up to. So it's I mean, I've heard some internal struggles he's going through and all that shit. So, like, you know, sometimes you never know what anyone's going through. I mean, too many people that we love have gone. Like suicide, depression, all that. Robin Williams to Chester Bennington of Linkin Park, man. It's, I don't know, man. It's this thing's fucked up, you know?
Yeah.
Like Steve said, man, like, you are never alone.
No.
No matter what you go through, there's always people that care for you. I mean, I think that, but someone does care. Even if you don't know, no. For me, who also went through suicide, not playing suicide at a young age, man. It's always sad to hear about someone losing that battle. Even someone's very young, man. 40,
Yeah.
bruh. Like, what?
I believe he was 49.
Nah, man.
Yeah.
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 He wasn't going to be 50 until next year.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I can have some closing statement to it, all I gotta say, man, rest in peace, bro. Rest in peace, man. Thank you for giving us a hero we can look up to, above, beyond, and another final moment. At least you're up there with your brother, man.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, JDF. May the power protect you.
Yeah. In the absence of Win, to our own Pink Ranger in Awesome Lydia, what do you make of all this?
Just hearing about it, like last night, Oni was online and he came into the room saying that he had passed away, and I was like, he told me to say, take this with a grain of salt because we still don't know anything, and I'm like, I was in my head, I was in denial. I'm like, okay, all right, I believe you. at getting the confirmation from like almost a lot of sources, to the point where the last confirmation I got was TMZ, where it's like, really the first to break this kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Having them be the last, it just hurts. It's a punch to the gut, and just suicide is not a joke, and
No.
No,
it's
never is.
Because trust me, if some parts of my life I've been in that dark place where it's like, I thought it'd be easier to just, hey, nobody would miss me if I was gone.
But you know,
I've been in that dark place, and it took a while to come back from that.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
hearing that, hearing that he was going through a lot of shit, it's just him trying to put on a brave face, and then that earlier that comments here is saying that he was selling a lot of the props and stuff like that. It's like, that's what a person does when they're about to take themselves out of the equation.
Well,
They don't want to leave anything behind, so they just leave things in this world that don't matter in the grand scheme of things. I don't know what hit harder, this, Conroy's death, or Chester Bennington's death a few years ago.
yeah.
It's hard
Yeah.
because three of them were like my childhood heroes. And what to say? I'm just sad. Just because they're gone doesn't take away what they gave us before. So
No,
and they will always be with us in spirit.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
so I just gotta say that rest in peace and see you on the other side.
One thing I'll say is that I always have a mantra.
Hmm?
Sad that they're gone, but be happy that they were there.
Mm,
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
yeah.
To our own Blue Ranger in Sir Stephen, your thoughts?
This was a real punch to the gut for me because in 2018 and in 2019, I had the honor of meeting him at a convention here in the UK. And from what I saw of his interactions with him and many other people, he was great in the convention circuit. He got into great conversations with fans, and he said when I asked him about what he thought about Lord Drakkon when he was introduced in the comics, he said it was like something for our generation, as in the OG just fans. He was just so able to connect with everybody on whatever level, whether you were a big fan of Power Rangers or just there for the convention. Just hearing about this really is a big punch to the gut.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep this short and say, if you're ever listening to this out there, Jason, it was an honor to meet you. You've inspired so many people in the world today, and you will always live on in our hearts.
Yeah, it does make me think, with the 30th anniversary coming up next year, will it simply be similar to what they did for Twee, and have like a small credit at the end of the episode saying this is dedicated in loving memory for JDF, or will they have a way to write into the story where Tommy's sadly gone and he's represented by either his son or his daughter in the story now, as a means of passing the baton? Because the owners of the franchise will have to address it if they're not going to outright reboot it, which it's a rumor that's floated around on the net for about Power Rangers for some time. You know, whether there will be a hard reboot at some point and just go back to the very beginning. I mean, we don't know. But if they are continuing the continuity going into the 30th anniversary next year, I think they should address it in some way, because you can make the argument that without Jason David Frank, there would be no Power Rangers as we know it today. And last but never least, to our own White Ranger himself, Kaiji, what are you feeling with this?
It seems to me like, of all of us here, I seem to have been maybe the only one who was keeping tabs on what JDF was up to up until his passing. And as soon as I heard reports that he passed away, my immediate thought was, did he take his own life? Did he take his own life? Because knowing everything that led up to this moment, I honestly had strong suspicions, given that he's from, just looking as someone from the outside. I am in no position to make make claims of one's mental health, especially one that I do not know personally. But just like looking as a fan, as an admirer, as someone from the outside looking in, signs were there that he was just not in the right state of mind. He claimed to have been wanting to move away from Power Rangers, that he wasn't going to be involved in the franchise, which is potentially why he was never part of the 30th anniversary special. There was that passion project of his, Legend of the White Dragon, which is clear that he still wants to cater to Power Rangers fans despite claiming to want to move away from it. There was the whole issue involving his divorce. There was his presentation, the way he presented himself at this year's Power Morphicon. I'm just curious if any of you guys saw that video that I shared.
I don't think. Ooh. I might have to watch that off air because
it's not a pretty sight.
No, it's not.
No.
I mean, you see the guy red in the face, possibly drunk. Who knows? Just he doesn't look good at all. I'll just say that without saying anything, without speaking ill of ill of those who have passed away. Just does not look good there, and he's just trying to advertise and promote his movie, but it's clear that no one around him is just really all that caring, that really cares. And then later I mentioned before, he was selling off props that he had from his days on the set. So it's like there were all these signs right there that he was just not in the best state of mind. And even at the same time, he was also starting to lose a bit of support from the hardcore fans, for one reason or another. So it's like I can make assumptions that he was hitting hard times. He was in a dark place. And so once I heard those reports, my immediate thought was, I don't want it to be suicide, but this sounds like this could have most likely been suicide. And I hate, this is one of those moments where I hate the fact that I was right. So of course, like you guys said, if depression, any of us can fall into that same dark place. It can happen to the best of us, and we should take this as sort of I'm not sure if cautionary tale would be the best choice of words in this case, but it is definitely a sign of how vital it is to reach out to people, to seek help, whether it's from a loved one, a trusted close friend, a family member, professional help. There's always the suicide prevention hotline. There's always a better way than taking your own life. And so, it's never the end. Things do get better. That is the most important thing that we should all keep in mind from now on to whenever from now into forever.
Yeah.
As for Mr. Jason David Frank, unfortunately, tragically, it is too late for this kind, influential, talented soul. I knew that like me, he too was a Christian. I can only pray for his soul that he may find everlasting peace on the other side. But until then, I and perhaps many Power Ranger fans out there will always remember him as this uh, inspirational childhood hero was who I guess we are thankful to have been able to have seen him grow up and him see his fans grow up alongside each other. It was always very nice to see him interacting as much as he did with the fans, doing like tens of perhaps hundreds of convention appearances up until this point, always showing his love and support and dedication for his fans and the franchise. And on many occasions, you have someone who is a part of entertainment, and they unfortunately pass away before they see how much their work affected the lives of so many people. But in the case of JDF, I can only imagine how happy he must have been to have received the same compliments over and over and over again. I can only hope that in his last moments he understood the profound effect that he had on a generation of people growing up in the 90s and 2000s. So until uh, for as long as like the franchise would continue, yeah, there will never be another Power Ranger, another actor, another figure like JDF and Tommy Oliver.
No.
He certainly left very big shoes to fill, and I'm as a fan of Power Rangers, I'm really happy to have seen so many actors come and go, who have all left um, massive impacts on each generation of Power Ranger fans, as much as as Jason did when we all grew up watching the show. And hopefully, the franchise will live on. I, the people will learn from learn from what made him such a memorable character. And on the personal side of things, I certainly pray for his friends and family, and hope that this would be. I hope that this could be an experience that we can all hopefully learn from, and that as tragic as things may get, to sort of like wrap things up, as bad as things may seem, the important takeaway out of all this is that there's always a better way. There's always a better option.
Yeah.
Oh, wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
And I will say, as a strong recommendation for anyone, like you guys were talking about what's going to happen to the character of Tommy Oliver. I will say for anyone who wants to, there's always people out there that wants to do something in honor of someone who passed away. I know plenty of people, they watched their favorite episodes of Batman TAS or Mask of the Phantasm when Kevin Conroy passed away. If I may give a strong recommendation, I would highly recommend the comic Power Rangers Soul of the Dragon as final. As
I read a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
It is I'd say it's a very touching send off for the character of Tommy Oliver. So if any of you guys are interested, I do recommend Power Rangers Soul of the Dragon if you wish to do something in honor of the late JDF.
Mm-hmm.
Nicely said, sir. Nicely said. Right, I'm going to attempt to lighten the mood now. And that is next year, Iron Man turns 15. Right.
I'm pretty sure he was older than that.
I'm referring to the first movie.
I know. I'm just messing. I'm just messing with you.
I got it.
The movie
I
that
get
the movie that Marvel put all their eggs in
I
one
made a
basket.
funny.
The movie that Marvel put all their eggs in one basket when Marvel Studios was originally formed on a very modest budget of $140 million, which went on to gross $585.8 million. The approach that Marvel took was, after having their IPs at other studios since the late 90s, when they sold off movie rights to balance their books accordingly as they almost went bankrupt, so you'd see the likes of the X-Men at Fox, Hulk at Universal, and Spidey over at Sony. It was only after the likes of Batman Begins took a more serious approach and Marvel wanted to get more of a piece of the action and tell the stories they wanted to tell is what led to the creation of Marvel Studios and subsequently the MCU. After reacquiring the rights from Fox for Iron Man, which might have seen Tom Cruise as Tony Stark, Marvel worked with Paramount Pictures to produce not only the first movie under their roof, but also the cinematic debut of a C-list character with a reformed actor on the comeback trail as its leading man, Tony Stark. And what happened? Because of the success of the movie and RDJ's charismatically charming performance as Tony Stark, that it not made Iron Man a much more beloved character, but it made Robert Downey Jr. into a household name and put Marvel on the map. There are fans that have been inspired by the movie where you see cosplayers putting so much detail into their costumes, and writers and video editors that have been inspired to do with what they saw with the first Iron Man. In the same vein that Jurassic Park inspired a generation nearly 30 years ago, Iron Man has inspired this generation to be a writer, an actor, a cosplay costume maker, and a digital editor to make their own version of Iron Man. The sequels are hit and miss. Iron Man 2 showed the downsides of being a superhero in a not too similar vein to what we saw with Peter Parker go through in 2004 Spider-Man 2, and the less we say about Iron Man 3, the better. I suppose what makes the first movie so rewatchable to this day is that it just tells a simple story of someone unwarily contributing to a problem in the world, has a near-death experience, invents a revolutionary tech suit, and uses it to better the world. What makes Tony Stark such an endearing character is that he's a flawed one. He's a genius, but he's one of regrets, snark, and using his playboy persona as not only being genuine, but also the fact he keeps himself occupied and not thinking about the issues he had with his late father. And the fact that RDJ puts on a natural and honest performance makes you believe when he says, "The truth is, I am Iron Man." You get the impression that he believes it. When an actor portrays a role where they get into the head of the character, that leads to a good performance. Even though Iron Man 3 was a train wreck on par with Spider-Man 3 and to a lesser extent Hulk, RDJ was one of the few saving graces. I suppose if I had to have one constructive critique about the first movie is that the confrontation with Ironmonger could have been dragged out more, as his inclusion felt like how Venom was in Spider-Man 3. Brief. Aside from that, 2008's Iron Man, for me at the very least, remains the best Iron Man movie and the best MCU flick because it tells a good simple story from start to finish, and it's something you don't have to come into with so much prior continuity knowledge when compared to now. And this is something that I think it was end of year 2018, Kaiju made the point of saying, you can come into the first Avengers and not necessarily needing to know the backstories of Iron Man, Hulk, Thor. If you get to Avengers Infinity War and Endgame and not seen all the other movies, you're screwed. You have to watch all these years of other prequel movies just to get the context. So, yeah. And I think that's something that, I mean, I appreciate you have to have context of the continuity in mind, but I think sometimes you need to just go back to basics and just tell a simple story that's not going to overwhelm the audience with like, I'm sorry, what am I meant to get with this? I mean, yes, Have something that makes you think, but don't have it be one of those where Oni gets an aneurysm every time he tried to play defective GTA Vice City. And trust me, he lost his mind over a couple of things, including light telegraph poles becoming tangible into the cement below. I'm like, what? And of course, it took about, what was it, 6,000 bits from Sir Stephen to make him quit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Steve, with Iron Man coming up to 15 next year, what were your thoughts of the movie when you first saw it, and all this time now, does it hold up?
You asking me?
Yes.
Sorry, we cut out there.
Yeah.
Well, it was. I remember liking the film when I ended up first watching it. It was mainly at the end where everybody just assumed that the movie was over with the credits, but then I ended up hearing, oh, there's a post-credit scene. That kind of really set the tone of films that was come after, especially in the lead up to the first Avengers movie.
Oh yes.
But it was essentially just having the origins of a character that, other than the cartoon in the 90s, wasn't really mentioned that much, I think. No. Well, not to the levels of Spider-Man or the X-Men back in the day.
No.
But overall, was the magnum opus of the MCU.
Yeah. Raiden, same questions to you. What was your initial thoughts of the first movie when it originally came out, and how do you feel about it today?
Well, I feel like with this movie, I was a little excited because I don't know, because as a kid, you watch a lot of old Marvel cartoons from Iron Man to Spider-Man to Hulk. You would like to see live action. Spider-Man, you did get that. A lot of people love that. So with this, I had a little bit of excitement with it. When I finally saw it, it was like, wow, yeah, it encapsulated everything about Iron Man you could think of. And I do agree they rushed the villain, because I feel like a lot of the MCU, they do that way too much, aside from some rarities. And nowadays you get origin stories while you just get a villain on the fly. You get that. I think that's a long-standing issue with the Iron Man movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but for what it's worth, I thought the movie itself was really good. Action scenes were great. I feel like the CGI of the film holds up a lot.
Oh yeah.
In the original Mark III suit, it's iconic. You can tell that Marvel Studios was really trying to plan something out there. And then when you hit post-credit scenes, like, okay, let's see where it goes, and look at MCU now, good or bad. Yeah, so I think this movie, like I said, that's the standard, and I think, in a sense, still holds up, but a lot of the stuff doesn't make sense. But that was okay. That was what happened during the time. I'm happy to see that even after all the success, Robert Downey Jr. got his redemption story, and look at him now. Definitely one of the biggest actors now.
Oh yeah.
So, happy for this movie.
Oh yeah. Madam President, same questions to you.
I mean, again, I've made it very clear on several occasions that Iron Man was technically not the first MCU movie I saw. Yeah, I know, I didn't watch it in order, sue me. But
I'll get the papers ready.
But yeah, I when I watched it, I actually loved it. It had the right kind of blend of humor and like a lot of darkness in there where it's like you can't, like, in comic book movies it's hard to find a balance with that nowadays. The MCU is known for jokes and shit like that, while the DCEU is like, I'm broody and sad. Occasionally I'm funny, but I'm sad. But which I'm glad that they were able to find a strike of humor and darkness in the first Iron Man movie. There are complaints where, yeah, the villain felt a little rushed, which again, like all of the other Iron Man movies, they felt a teensy bit rushed, where it's like, we have to get a villain out already. Iron Man 2 had the problem where they had too many villains. It's like, we don't need that many, we're fine. We just have one concise bad guy that isn't completely made out of paper. I don't know. The first movie was good, so I will give it that. And just the fact that in another universe, Tom Cruise became Iron Man, and I don't want to picture that universe. No, thank you, because again, like the Dark Universe, the MCU would have died before it got off the fucking ground. So, Tom Cruise, we love you, but yeah, you need to put your ego in check. Okay.
No comment.
But I do have some fond memories of that, and honestly, nowadays, you can't picture Iron Man without thinking about RDJ.
Nope.
The point where, like, the comics have now modeled RDJ after Iron Man after RDJ,
Yeah.
so it's like, for him, that's gotta be like a compliment, so I take
Oh, yeah.
that. And I feel like a lot of voice actors try to emulate his cadence when they speak, so it's like,
Wait, especially if you look at like Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes,
Yep.
that's clearly
Yes.
supposed to be MCU Tony Stark.
yes, that is exactly that, so,
Way before Disney
Again-
owned it.
Oh yeah.
yeah. So I do respect that, and that's gonna be his legacy from now on. I mean, he can move on from the MCU, but he's still gonna be Iron Man. Let's not sugarcoat it. So
Well, it's no different.
gonna-
It's no different from how Christopher Reeve will always be remembered as Superman, and how Michael Keaton will always be seen as Batman.
exactly, yeah. So hats off to him, and here's to 15 years.
To our own superhero in the making, Kaiju. What was your first thoughts when Iron Man first came out, and do you feel like a movie it still holds up given the changes the world has gone through in the last 15 years?
Oh, certainly, yeah. Without a doubt, Iron Man, the first Iron Man film, definitely feels like a perfect, timeless film where its qualities can be enjoyed regardless of how many years go by. It is pretty much like the 2000s equivalent to Star Wars or Back to the Future. It's also like a really interesting time capsule because it was like one of the last movies where it could serve as its own standalone adventure without any it's ironic that for a movie that kickstarted the trend of cinematic universes, it's also one of the last superhero movies that feels like it could easily exist in a vacuum and still be like perfect as is. Oftentimes you have so many movies nowadays that are clearly setting up for further adventures down the line. Meanwhile, with the first Iron Man movie, you can feel that there is a solid beginning, middle, and end. And if you didn't have that post-credit sequence, you would still have yourself a fully satisfying experience. So, in a way, yeah, it represents the beginning of cinematic universes as well as the end of the era of standalone cinematic universes. And upon learning of the existence of the Iron Man of an Iron Man movie, I can't remember exactly where I was when I first saw that trailer. Perhaps I may have been in the movie theater back when 2008. Yeah, the movie studios weren't exactly using YouTube as much as they do today when it came to showcasing movie trailers. So I believe I do remember watching that movie in the theater. Can't remember what movie the trailer was attached to, but I was a I was never a fan of Iron Man back in the day, not because I didn't like Iron Man, just because there, as a kid, who, like the majority of kids my age, just did not grow up with the comics. My introduction to Iron Man was through, I believe, the Spider-Man series. He appeared occasionally in the show. I certainly had Iron Man action figures back then. He was always like a character who was in the background of other more popular characters like Spider-Man or Hulk or X-Men, whatever. He was just that. He was just, oh yeah, Marvel versus Capcom. That was like perhaps like my biggest exposure to Marvel to Iron Man. So I didn't have a strong attachment, but I always thought he was a really cool character. And so when I heard that there was going to be a movie that came out, I was like, oh wow, this looks really cool. I can see a lot of potential in a guy fighting crime in a suit of armor. And as someone who barely knew a thing, oh yeah, the animated series, I didn't exactly grow up with the Iron Man cartoon as much, but I would say around high school, a lot of those old 90s Marvel shows were being aired on like I think it was Jetix at the time.
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
so a lot of my exposure to the series was during reruns on Jetix, in the lead up to the movie. So I had the basic gist of who Iron Man was as a character who built a suit of armor to escape from evil bad guys. Oh, another exposure I had to Iron Man was, do you guys remember when Marvel put out those like cheap but pretty nifty compilations of their old comics called the Essential line, where like
I
all
think
the paper,
so.
like there was no color. It was all on like newspaper style, like quality paper.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
think I remember
So-
that.
So I had a trade paperback of the first 24 issues of the original Avengers comics. No color, cheap paper. It was called like Essential Avengers Volume 1. And that's where I got a lot of the, like, I read that book a ton during, like, I want to say middle school. So I definitely got like a gist of like old school Tony Stark from like the OG comics back in the day. So I definitely knew enough about Iron Man by the time the movie came out, and it completely blew me away. It was able to perfectly modernize the character for a new generation. Never heard of Robert Downey Jr. before, up until this point. In retrospective, of course, I did eventually learn that he fell on hard times, and he, hey, what do you know? We have someone who was in a very dark place at the time, but thank God he was able to find a way back to the light, and is in, he's perhaps become like a national icon at this point, both the actor and the character of Tony Stark himself. So I would say that, yeah, it's a perfect movie, or at least as close to perfect as you can possibly get. And in a way, it embodies the best qualities of what superhero storytelling can provide. Even for people who say that the movie has a weak climax or a weak villain, or like this was the start of MCU's issues with villains, I would have to disagree completely, because I absolutely love Jeff Bridges, as what was his name, Obadiah Stane, Ironmonger. I thought he was the perfect, like, subdued villain. This was like definitely like the point where Marvel really pivoted their direction in terms of how they told hero versus villain stories, where the villains are often more subdued. They're usually in the background waiting for their chance to strike, while putting the majority of the focus on their heroes. And admittedly, this has led to the MCU's reputation of weak heroes, or unmemorable heroes. Villains. Weak villains, unmemorable villains. But I feel like in the case of the first Iron Man, I think it was a really smart decision, because it not only helps introduce audiences to Tony Stark and have them learn to care about him, but it also provides a neat twist villain, as well as a fantastic performance by a well-beloved actor, with Jeff Bridges. So yeah, of course, not everyone can handle that formula perfectly, but I would say in the case of this movie, it was another thing that they succeeded. They passed with flying colors. So yeah, overall, love the movie. Loved the movie back then. Love the movie to this day. I'm certain that I will continue to enjoy this movie for years, even decades to come.
Yeah, some very good points made there. I'm kind of glad I saved this topic for a little further down the line, because if I had done this article straight after the remembrance piece for JDF, that might have not been the best transition. Teen romance films that couldn't be made today.
Oh no, it's in Cruel
Oh,
Intentions.
dear.
No.
Oh, Cruel Intentions. I remember that movie. That shit was wild.
Spoiler alert! All of them.
Teen romance movies capture.
Especially one by Shakespeare. That's inspired by Shakespeare.
Teen romance movies capture the thrill and pain of teen love, but have not all aged well. Here are some teen romances that couldn't be made today. Teen romance movies are a great way to experience or re-experience the highs and lows of first love. From first crushes to first kisses, teen romance movies have a timeless spirit that anyone can enjoy. Though some may be tied to the era they were made in, many of these movies are considered classics, and deservedly so. So they capture the joy and heartbreak of teen romance in an authentic, relatable way even years later. No one is questioning the overall merit of these movies or the enjoyment they have brought viewers. However, some teen romance movies have plots or specific elements that seem outdated now and probably couldn't be made today without some adjustments. And we begin with
I gotta say, like, for right out the gate, a big thing that a lot of people are more aware of these days is sort of like the sexualization of underage characters. And for a lot of these type of stories, they do this hardcore. I mean, heck, we still like a lot of people like to point the finger at anime for constantly like sexualizing underage characters. It's like we in America are still doing this to this day with the likes of like Riverdale, with how they treat their supposedly underage characters, and yet no one complains about that show. Everyone eats that up. So it's like I do find it funny for certain people on the internet who point the finger at one country's entertainment and yet are completely unaware of what our country's doing at the same time.
Oh God!
It's a thing that's I feel like everyone is guilty of, and it's a thing that's been going on for decades. So
hey, let's be fair on something though. They are played by close to 30-somethings back then.
That is true. That's very true, and that's certainly like almost the case with a lot of these movies that we're about to go through now. All of these are not played by underage actors, but the fact that they're playing underage characters is a thing where it's like, how did we allow this? Why were we allowed this for so long now? And why are we still doing it? It's just a thing that's been going on in the back of my head that I'm thinking like,
yeah.
This doesn't, on paper, this sounds like the worst idea in the world, and yet we keep doing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be 100% honest. I've watched reviews about Riverdale, people just tearing that show to shreds. The creator is the fucking problem, because every single thing that he's done has been dog crap, and it's the same fucking thing over and over again. Just like
and yet people watch it.
Yes! I'm like, why?
I was one of those people. I can't lie to you.
Why?
How dare you?
God.
I know. I'm part of the problem.
You're part of the problem.
Yeah.
It's time to cancel Raiden.
We begin with 17 again. It stars Matthew Perry as Mike, a 37-year-old man who's stuck in life. He's living with his friend, and his wife has filed for divorce. A freak act encounter turns him back into his 17-year-old self. I wouldn't mind that happening. Played by Zac Efron. As a teenager, Mike has feelings towards his soon-to-be ex-wife, which she tells him are wrong due to his age. Despite this, he still pursues her, and even kisses her. This can be a grey area since Mike is really 37 and stuck in a teen body, but it is a questionable moment in the movie.
I'm sure it would have been even worse if he was a 37-year-old man trying to hook up with other 17-year-olds.
Which I noticed from what little clips I've seen, he doesn't do that.
Thank God.
Because that would have been a bit like, oh, this is awkward. And then Revenge of the Nerds from boy.
I will say.
Oh no!
I will say, I love this movie, but there are parts of it that are so fucking wrong.
The movie centers around two nerdy college freshmen. Just a heads up, people. We thankfully moved on from this stereotype of the big rimmed glasses, shirt and tie.
Oh, dude, that's not even the worst of it when it comes to this movie. And again, this is coming from someone who's a fan of the movie.
I was just trying to say, in terms of attire, we've moved on from this. We usually just tend to wear superhero and comic book T-shirts and what have you.
So in other words, we dress up like the people from the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, except we don't have toxic girlfriends like Penny. I'm sorry, but I would not date that woman even if you paid me. Sorry. I feel bad for Leonard with the way he puts up with the like the only reason he's still with her is like she's the only woman that I've been with, so it's like yeah.
That's not saying something, dude. No.
When Amy
helping her cause.
Even someone like Sheldon can see that.
When Amy Farrah Fowler is the only likable, normal woman, there's a problem.
Yeah, Amy always has been better at her over the series progressed.
As for Bernadette,
And don't get me started on Bernadette.
as for Bernadette, keep that woman away from sugar and caffeine.
Yeah. Feel bad for Wallace, man.
Oh dear. He got emasculated by his mother, now he gets emasculated by his wife. Like, he's screwed before and after. The movie centers around two nearly college freshmen, Lewis and Gilbert. Wait, Anthony Edwards? Goose? 2 years before Top Gun. Oh shit! And their rivalry with the school's fraternity. When their dorms are overtaken by the fraternity, nothing's changed since the 80s, Lewis and Gilbert form a successful residence which prompts pranks from the jealous fraternity. In this rivalry, the nerds outsell the jocks at a fundraiser by selling pies with pictures of naked sorority. Oh, no.
Wait, are you telling me you guys have never seen Revenge of the Nerds?
No.
I think I blocked out most of it.
I've heard of it.
Most of it.
Oh, boy.
Mulligan.
Oh god, great. Now there's emotional scars that are just open. Thank you.
I did state at the beginning, there's a lot of messed up stuff in this movie.
I know. I thought you were referring to the scene with Darth Vader.
He's about MJ's about to get to that part right now.
While Lewis pretends to be a jock and tricks the jock's girlfriend into having sex with him, though the rivalry aspect holds up these details of age pride. Liz, can I have this for Christmas? No, you cannot!
No.
The whole, you know what we called that Darth Vader scene?
What?
Sexual assault.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We call that a lack of consent.
Yeah.
God.
Nope.
Thank you. Nope. Mm-mm.
And then we move on to weird science.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Now this one I unfortunately have not seen, but I've always been very curious.
I've seen this movie. Ay.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
Two teenage nerds, Gary, played by Anthony Michael Hall, and Wyatt.
Wyatt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm presuming that's 2L, an I and an L. Elon Mitchell Smith are tired of being picked on for crushing for cheerleaders, yet being single. I think we can all relate to that in some form or fashion. They decide to create a perfect woman and succeed in making Kelly LeBrock. And to steal a line from Liz, oh, hi, Kelly LeBrock. A beautiful woman with powers like creating cars. Right, learn how to make Lisa later. I need a Mustang. Lisa, though powerful, is seen as little more than an object created solely to exist as the perfect woman for two boys. However, the movie does have the message that manufactured love might be ideal, but can't substitute for the real thing. And it also featured a very, very young RDJ.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
Bill Paxton was in this movie too.
Number 6. She's all that.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
This movie stars Freddie Prinze
Damn,
Jr.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but I think it celebrated its anniversary, and I think Freddie Prinze
And
Jr.
it had a sequel. He's all that.
Really?
It was on Netflix, I think.
I'll be avoiding that like the plague. It stars Freddie Prinze Jr. as popular teen Zach. So, actually there was a few characters from the 80s to the 90s that were called Zach, whether it be from Saved by the Bell or Gremlins 2, obviously.
Power Rangers.
Yeah. And also, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Zach as the 5th turtle, whose girlfriend cheats on him. That sucks. He claims his girlfriend can easily be replaced, which leads him to a bet that can turn any girl into a prom queen. Should be noted, that movie also featured Paul Walker.
Yeah.
He chooses...
And if I remember correctly, Eldon Henson was in it too.
He chooses Lainey, Rachel Lee Cook, who, I might add, for a girl in her late 20s posing as a teenager, she fooled me. An unpopular nerd, and eventually falls for her. And of course, the way that Not Another Teen Movie, lampooned this. Oh, good lord.
Takes up the way like taking off the sunglasses. Taking off the glasses and automatically they're hot.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I haven't seen this movie. I looked up what she supposedly looks like before the the big old makeover, and I'm guessing this is supposed to be her because looking at her, it's like there's nothing wrong with her.
No.
She's like perfectly attractive, I think.
She is! The glasses actually make her hot!
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where it's the same thing with that one actress from the what's it called, The Breakfast Club, where like
Ali
at the
Sheedy.
very end,
Ali Sheedy.
yeah, like the goth girl, she supposedly gets a makeover and now she's attractive. It's like no.
Excuse me, she was attractive before. What the hell?
Yeah, I think she was better when she was goth.
Yeah.
Yes!
Also, in Not Another Teen Movie, the way they were parodying Sarah Michelle Gellar's character from Cruel Intentions, that was messed up.
God.
Oh lord.
Like, hey, movies, you know what happens when I take off my glasses? Oh my god, I can't fucking see!
Oh Jesus.
The movie is sweet and everything you could want in a rom-com, but it treats the character of Lainey poorly. As Cosmopolitan points out, she isn't as valuable on her own and must be...
You skipped a word. She isn't seen as valuable.
She isn't seen as valuable, on her own, and must be made conventionally desirable to be worthy. Ooh, yeah, that's kind of messed up. Zach may love Lainey for herself by the end, but the movie pushes the idea that women must change themselves to be desirable.
Exactly.
Alright. This doesn't just apply to women, but it applies to guys. I think there's a fine line between changing yourself and, just making, a general effort. I mean, you don't have to change who you are,
Just take a shower every once in a while.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, just brush up on the appearances. And and of course that movie was also attached to Sixpence None the Richer's song of...
Oh god, that song was played everywhere.
I love that song.
I like it too, but when it's played ad nauseum, it's kind of like, can we not? I hear that like almost every day when I go to the grocery store. I'm like, no.
If it's any if it's any consolation, just keep that in mind. Cannot stand that song by The Calling where they're in that the scene where they filmed Terminator 2 and the car chase scene from Grease, Thunder Road.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he hates that song.
Uh,
Number 5, Never Been Kissed.
oh, here we go. Okay.
Wait, what one?
Editor Josie, played by Drew Barrymore, even to this day, how you doing, is assigned to go undercover at a high school for article research. Working through her horrific high school memories, Josie makes friends and falls for her teacher, Sam. Oh, I see where this is going already.
Oh boy.
Yes, Josie is an adult, but Sam doesn't know this. Though he's conflicted about their relationship, he's a teacher and he shouldn't be pursuing a student at all. Though things ultimately work out, the two can be themselves in a happy finale to a strong romantic comedy, but the path to their happiness didn't age well.
Gee, I wonder why.
Oh God.
Yeesh.
Here's the thing. It's one thing for, say, the student to have a crush on their teacher and not have it go anywhere, because, you know, I've had one or two of my teachers back in the day where I'm like, oh my, she looks fine, but then be like, get on with your work. Because we've all done that at one stage or another. It's when, if the teacher makes a move on the student, that's when you get social services involved.
Ooh.
And even if it's like years later, even if, you know, the former student is now fully adult, it's one of those situations kind of feels still a little bit wrong. It's like, that was your teacher. It's like, I don't know. Your mileage may vary at that point. I don't know. For me, it would be like, yeah, I did have a crush on you, but still kind of feels wrong. Maybe that's just me. Oh, good lord.
Anyways,
Oh, good lord, American Pie.
Oh, Lordy. Here we go.
the beginning of the sex comedies of the 2000s.
Dear God,
Oh no.
I don't know how many times I've seen that movie.
American Pie
No,
follows...
I don't. You know what? I don't think I've seen this movie in full. I've always catch like glimpses of it on TV.
I've only seen the pie scene, and I'm like, they burn. No, they burn.
Just be grateful you didn't see American Reunion with what Stifler does to the beer cooler.
Besides, it's not inaccurate. It shouldn't have been. It should have been an apple pie. It should have been a cherry pie. Okay.
Nah, I see what you did there. You nasty.
I will say, with on topic with American Reunion, I was so happy that Stifler finally got revenge against Finch for all those years he smashed his mom.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Alright, continue.
American Pie follows a group of classmates who make a pact to lose their virginity before graduation. This leads to chaotic situations like Oz having sex. No. Oz
Go ahead, say it, you coward.
Oz did not have... Oz was not the one having sex with the pie, that was Jim!
Okay, then fix it.
After...
Oz was the one who was trying to get with Venus Navarro's character.
Who wrote the article?
Ooh. I'll find out in a bit.
Oh my God.
After a misunderstanding a metaphor, it also contains questionable actions like the group setting up a webcam to
Didn't
watch...
say it.
What?
Yeah, oh God.
Okay. Like the group setting up a webcam to watch Nadia, Shannon Elizabeth, how you doing? Change clothes, or
Yeah.
Finch
Coward.
having underage sex with a friend's mom. Yeah,
No.
Nope.
Oh my God.
yeah, that.
No.
I mean,
no,
don't-
no.
Don't get me wrong. Stifler's mom still looks hot then and now, but it's just
Jennifer Coolidge. Oh Lord.
they even referred
Like,
they even referred to her as Stifler's mom in Epic
epic
movie.
Yes.
Although they refer to her, I don't know if I can say this aloud. They refer to her character as.
Oh, I know.
Uh-oh.
Yep, I remember.
Don't think I can say that.
I'm pretty sure you can. I mean, given everything that we've already said just now, I'm pretty sure you can say that.
I'm gonna play it safe or not, considering I'm trying to get made affiliate. You know, because even Oni has said some word you gotta watch yourself with. Just saying. Just saying. It has an overall negative portrayal of women. Yeah, that's fair, given the passage of time since then. They are little more than objects helping the boys achieve sex and are treated unfairly. Screen Rant, oh, those lovely people, points out that Nadia was expelled for the webcam incident, while Jim, who was also in it, sees no major punishment. I don't ever recall Nadia getting expelled, but it's been a few years since I've watched this movie. It remains a landmark teen movie, but some parts haven't held up as well. No, especially half the shit Stifler came up with.
Oh my lord!
I think half the stuff, half the words that come out of his mouth are more offensive than some of the stuff that goes on.
Oh man!
16 candles.
Oh boy! Oh boy!
Woo-hoo-hoo! I've heard stories about this.
There we go.
This tells the story of Molly Ringwald's character, Sam, whose family forgets her 16th birthday due to a family wedding. I appreciate weddings can take up a lot of time and planning, but still, that's your baby girl. You know? At a school dance, she deals with her feelings for her senior, Jake, played by Michael Schofling? I hope that's how I pronounce it. And pushes away the attention of freshman Ted by Anthony Michael Hall. I've heard that name before. A large portion of the plot centers around Ted trying to get Sam's underwear to impress her friends. There's also a scene where Jake...
Oh no, I saw that scene.
No.
There's also a scene where Jake tells Ted to get his drunk ex-girlfriend Caroline home for the night. Caroline wakes up next to Ted with the implication that they had sex, which she has no memory of. Finally, the exchange student, Long Duck Dog. That's really not peace. That's wow. I've got nothing. Embodies several racist stereotypes. Though dated, this Brat Pack movie remains strong and sympathetically and authentically captures teenage life. I didn't read that bit earlier, but jeez.
I'm very curious if, like, the teen movies, if teenagers today can relate to teen movies of the 80s and have a strong feeling they can't.
No, because they have Euphoria for that. That's right.
That's true.
Would I be right in thinking that the only technically teen movie of the 1980s that still holds up is Back to the Future?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing in
And
it...
I guess it's because, like, that was... I'm guessing that's because the movie itself was not directly targeted solely at the teenage demographic of the 80s, but rather just, like, a wide general audience.
I mean, the only moments that could be considered questionable and outdated is when you have racist slurs used against the band, and then Biff's company, and then Lou, the cafe guy, making comments. But what people need to remember is that was socially acceptable back then. Today, yeah,
in the 50s, we gotta keep that in mind. It's like half of it is a period piece, but if anything, I'd say maybe the Libyans might be considered problematic in today's environment.
Yeah, but even then, they're used so fleetingly. So
and also who talks about Libyans these days?
I guess.
Except maybe if you're an actual Libyan.
Number 2, the one that Lids is fearing, Cruel Intentions.
I have seen this as well. Oh dear God.
Cruel Intentions adapts the novel Les Liaisons Dangereuses into a high school setting where Catherine, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and I will say, she knows how to play evil really well.
Badass. Oh my God.
I will give it that.
And also in that movie, Catherine was hot. Makes a deal with her stepbrother Sebastian, Ryan Philippe, who at one time or another was in the short running to be Spider-Man,
Oh, cool.
where he yeah, where he will ruin the reputation of the girl who stole Catherine's boyfriend. If he succeeds, then he gets to sleep with Catherine, who is his stepsister. Aside from this, the movie has several instances of forced sexual encounters and manipulation, though it remains a suspenseful watch with strong performances. Yeah. And also, yeah, Reese Witherspoon, I don't know what that woman is taking, but look at her then and now. Even when there was a selfie of her on her Instagram where she was like side by side with her daughter, you'd swear blind they were sisters. Because Reese, I don't know what she's taking, but that girl does not age. And number 1, Endless Love. Never heard of this one before.
Me neither.
Yep.
It focuses on the relationship between two teenagers, Jade, played by Brooke Shields. Oh boy, I see where this is going already. And David, Martin Hewitt. Well, considering Brooke has been unfortunately coerced into doing projects she didn't want to do back in the day. What starts as a simple relationship develops into an unhealthy, consuming mess as Jade falls deeper for David, her grades suffer, and she can't sleep. Oh, okay. So we got the honor roll student, falls for the bad guy, and we see this is Mean Girls all over again.
Yep.
Jade's father asked them to...
Girls.
Yep. Jade asked them to separate for a time. This escalates into David fighting Jade's house on fire to save
Lighting
her.
Jade's house.
Wow. Going to a mental hospital and after his release, stalking Jade and forcing her to admit her love.
What?
No.
The movie tends to glorify this stalking and all-round unhealthy romance in ways that it shouldn't. All that's needed
I
is
wonder why.
all that's needed
Oh my god.
all that's needed is for him to stand on a park bench on a front lawn with a boombox above his head and the image is complete. I know Deadpool did that in the second movie with am I thinking?
Colossus.
Thank you. Yeah, I was blanking on his name for a minute. Also, even though Colossus only had a small part in X-Men 2, I felt like he could have had more. You know?
Yeah.
Also, the guy that played him in that kind of reminded me of John Cena a little bit. Just like this general sort of body type and, doesn't say much, but when he does, it means something.
That's ridiculous, MJ. You could actually see that guy.
So, if you don't see John Cena in a mirror, does that technically make him a vampire?
Hey man, I don't know.
Well, he
That would
clearly...
explain why he looks why he has good looks.
Well, he
doesn't
do-
take care of himself.
Then again, he can't be a Twilight vampire because he doesn't sparkle. Yes, do I need to sparkle as a vampire? No, absolutely not.
You sparkle, I kick you into the sunlight with a flamethrower.
Ouch.
Having seen probably a small portion of the list that's on here, I think the only ones I could probably relate to the most is probably American Pie and Cruel Intentions, because that's when I actually started going to the movies a lot more. And yeah, I think even American Union Reunion, to a degree, I think if that were made today, there would be a few items that would be adjusted. But most certainly, the first American Pie, I don't think you could do that today. That's...
Never. Also in the beginning, Jim was talking about Ariel in very lewd fashion.
To be fair, when you're an immature teenager, sometimes you say shit.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh,
of course.
yeah.
Of course.
I mean, if the character felt like that today, it's not something he would probably make public. Stifler, on the other hand...
that dude had no filter.
Can you imagine what it'd be like if he found Twitter? Actually, let's not even entertain
Oh,
that.
oh my lord.
He'd be canceled like 6 ways to next Sunday.
Oh, good lord. You imagine it'd be like, they're struggling to look for entertainment back in the 90s. Imagine if Stifler found Pornhub. He'd probably go into a coma.
Man, he'd end up like Quagmire when he first discovered that shit.
Oh,
I was
no.
thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And when he, just before he's passed out, all you hear is, giggity. Oh, damn. Madam President, do you agree with the majority of the list from MovieWeb? They're saying oh, good lord, they couldn't do this today. Madam President.
Oh, well, let's be clear on something. Nowadays, all the stuff early in when those movies were made. There's a reason why you could get made that you can make those, because Hollywood is a cesspool of death and crime. I'm just kidding, no, but no. I think
You're
it's
not
because
far off.
I'm not far off, but
When it comes to Los Angeles, I mean.
That's why a lot of celebrities are leaving now.
But yeah, I feel like it was a time where you could get away with that stuff. Nowadays, I don't want to say people are sensitive, but it's kind of difficult to look at something without interpreting them like, oh, that's fucking gross. I'm like, oh, that's dirty. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go over here. Because let's be honest, shows nowadays, they cast age-appropriate actors, but here's the problem. There are still pedos in the freaking industry that want to prey on young children. Now they have easier freaking access. So yay!
Yeah.
something Dan Schneider.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's
Better
the
that
thing. Like,
freaks the better.
you were mentioning about people, their thoughts may younger generations may look on older media differently, and I guess that's just a natural course of life. Nothing ever stays the same. Priorities always change from one generation to the next. I'm sure our generation would look back on stuff from the 50s and 60s and say, ooh, that's not good. And I'm sure people from the 60s may have looked at stuff that their parents did from the 40s and say, ooh, that stuff's not good.
Ooh,
So,
no.
It's just it's for me, I find it more so fascinating at how what used to be acceptable is no longer the case as time goes by. Stuff that I grew up being comfortable saying when I was a stupid teenager, I wouldn't be caught dead saying anymore as a 30-year-old adult. So it's just something I look at with curiosity, where it's wow, things really have changed a lot since then.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you mentioned, sometimes things don't change at all, especially when it comes to the icky nature that is Hollywood.
Yeah. And also, all these people
been consistent since the very beginning.
Yeah, and all these people complaining about these movies. Why isn't Porky's on this list?
Oh, I've heard.
Enough. No.
I've heard about that movie.
Oh God,
Lord.
no. Mm-mm.
I think.
Could you at least have added an extra entry or an honorable mention? Because good lordy, that movie's no, no, nuh-uh.
I remember when 2.5 Men was making a reference to it, where the setup is Jake made a rather unflattering picture of his classmate and referred to her as Boobra because she was developed somewhat early, and Alan says to Charlie, "It's well, it's considered sexual harassment." He goes, "Oh, for the good old days when you could stumble into a woman's locker room pretending to be blind." And it's you did that? That's awful. Because, oh no, the awful part was stealing the dog from the blind kid. I'm like, Charlie!
Oh, God.
I would not want to see Charlie Harper as a teenager, because some of the stuff that he recants, okay, dude, that's messed up. But then again, they
And
had.
that is,
But then again,
and
they
that
had,
is mama.
I was about to say you had Evelyn as a mother, so it kind of tells you everything.
Yeah.
Ugh. Oh, some of the clapbacks between Charlie and Holland Taylor is just they just work. They just work so brilliantly. Oh, good lord. Raiden, what are your thoughts with regards to the list? Do you agree with the majority of it, or are you indifferent with some of them?
Oh, listen. Half of this shit I have watched, and the amount of stuff they got away with is
Oh,
unreal. Like, goddamn, like American Pie. Listen, there's some shit oh my lord, it's fucked up. But anytime I go back to it, I laugh. What they should have did is did from American Pie first movie to the second. Oh, the second goes places.
Yes,
I
it
just remember.
does. Oh,
Don't,
dear.
don't forget about and wedding. Oh my lord, Jesus Christ! The shit Stifler got away with. The stuff he says. Why?
Let's not even talk about the profiterole scene. Oh.
Yeah. Oh my lord.
And the way that Finch goes to grab that bottle of champagne afterwards is like, yeah, you know he's gonna be drinking that all to himself later. And I was watching that in the theater, and I think someone could. I wasn't saying this like obnoxiously loud, but I said it sort of maybe just slightly above indoor voice, and I just went, "That's messed up," or said that is just vile. But I think most people would have agreed with me because I heard a few people behind me like groaning at that scene. It's just, and the fact that Sean William Scott actually had the nerve to pick up something that looked like muck. Oh, gosh dang! And
I think what was it? Go for it. Go ahead.
And the way that him and Finch are trading barbs, where Stifler inadvertently made out with Jim's grandmother, and then just goes to Lair says, "Yeah, you motherfuckers!" Like, "Yes, I am." And he's like, "Oh, I hate you."
Oh my lord. So yeah, the whole list of stuff. It's yeah. Man, just yeah. A lot of this shit will not be made today. Like it's some considered classic minis, but the amount of bad deeds that definitely supports bad behavior. And you know. I think one that should have been on this list. It doesn't count as a teen romance, but I guess Project X. The amount of shit that movie had, oh my lord. Yeah, I definitely agree with this whole list. It takes me back to the worst way before any of us gain the brain. It's like, hey, this is kind of bad. Why did I like this?
You know, you can imagine like in a similar vein where some people go, the women are not being treated well in the women's division of WWE. It's like, go back to 98 to 2004 and come back to me. Then see how bad you've got it.
I wouldn't laugh.
To be fair, from the Attitude Era, there are some standout matches where you look and think, okay, you did the women right there. And I mean that in the context that it's meant. It's like they were given the treatment they should have gone. Like anytime. I would say the best match between Lita and Trish is probably the first time on the brand extension the women main evented Monday Night Raw, and it was Lita's second world title in years by that point. So I'll give them that. But there's other times when you see, say, like Stacy versus Tori, it's like, yep, you already know what this is going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even before that, they had Joshi Wrestling from the '90s. and there was a partnership between them, and I think Vince put the kibosh on that because they were wrestling better than the men. I mean, it's, you know.
Yeah. So Stephen, do you agree with the majority on that list that it's not necessarily appropriate for today?
Probably so. For the majority of it, I have to pull a mulligan because growing up, never saw a majority of these movies. Only heard about them, but never watched them.
Fair enough. Mr. Noir, would you be in agreement with most of the list that there's a whole bunch of things that would have to be adjusted or filtered out for if they were made today?
Yes, always.
Okay. I'm gonna take another trip back in time because another movie celebrates a very pinnacle milestone this year. And I will put that just so people can see on the Twitch. This year has been 30 years since Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's funny. 3 decades have passed since Francis Ford Coppola's movie about a more loved-up version of the King of the Vampires, and I think I understand the movie better with time. At the time when I first saw it on TV...
Because you yourself are a vampire?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time people have made that distinction, being a creature of the night these days. At the time when I first saw it on TV in the 90s, like most adolescent guys, I was just interested in boob shots. Hey, when you're a teen, you like what you like. But with the
I can't argue that.
But with the passage of time and maturity, the jury's still out on that one with me, by the way. You begin to look at the nuances of the story more and understand and empathize with the characters more. Now, via the same context, I am not condoning what Vlad did in his journeying back to his one true love, where he chose to turn his back on the church and the light. No. But when you have the rug pulled out from underneath you and you believe what you have defended was seemingly all for naught, wouldn't you be irate and in pieces? I think what this adaptation did with Dracula is depicting the titular character in a way that you fear what he represents, but you also understand him. He is a monster, yes, but he is a monster that longs for his long-lost love and companionship. They could have not cast anyone better with Gary Oldman in the titular role, as you buy his performance from beginning to end with his Romanian accent. Winona Ryder is just as captivating as Mina Harker and Elizabetha. Anthony Hopkins continues to chew up the scenery as only he knows how as Dr. Abraham Van Helsing, whilst Keanu Reeves just seems lost as Jonathan Harker, putting on quite possibly the worst English accent, and at times I was half expecting him to go, "Whoa," as Ted. Now, I think that's just down to the direction he was given and his vocal coach with regards to his accent training. The ending remains bittersweet as Dracula is released from his curse, but at the cost of his life. And then you have Annie Lennox putting on probably the most enchantingly haunting love song with Love Song for a Vampire. And just so you know, even when she would come in to perform songs on Top of the Pops back in the day, that woman would get into goth makeup and have this, the stage set up just so it kind of reflects what she's like in the video. And it's just like, okay, lady, you're committed to the bit. In terms of Dracula and vampire movies in general, this is still one of the standard bearers to meet. Just a pity the BBC couldn't do the same with their adaptation a few years ago. But it's the BBC. Need I say more? Steve, you probably didn't see Dracula when it first came out because you were not old enough to go to the theatre to see that one at the time. When did you first see it? What do you make of it then? What do you make of it now? Does it hold up?
Sorry, but yet again, it's another film that I have yet to have seen.
Same here, so I cannot comment either.
All right. Madam President?
I mean, I watched this movie. It's actually one of my favorites, and I got to watch this technically with Oni while we were still living in separate states. And let's just say one scene kind of got to him. He doesn't really like giant rats, and
Yeah.
yeah, he didn't exactly take it well.
Yeah, the moment
And
Liz is referring to is where Dracula in his kind of uh, demonic being form goes into the corner as a shadow, and then the figure then just turns into dozens of rats escaping the bedroom.
no, but yeah, it was creepy for me. It was worse for him because he doesn't like rats of unusual size.
And they've gone big in recent years.
But again, I do love this movie, and honestly, if I were Mina, I honestly would have picked Gary Oldman Dracula. I'm sorry, he was hot. I'm sorry, no offense to Keanu, but I'll take that guy. Eternal life? Who doesn't want that? But all in all, I do love this movie, and I do have like a fondness for it. And as some people say, it's dated nowadays, and Keanu Reeves' accent is something to be desired. It's a bad movie, so I'll give it that. So
It's where he says, "I know where the bastard lives. I got him to Carfax Abbey," and there's me
oh
now.
god, that hurts my brain. No.
There's me like trying to put my fist in my mouth, go, "Don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh."
Like, damn it, I laughed. I
And
knew where the bastard sleeps. I'm like, wait, what? What are you doing?
and Sadie Frost as Winona's friend in that movie is like, someone needs to get that girl to calm down because she's flirting from one guy to the next, and her in her white gothic makeup as a vampire, especially when she's carrying the kid back to the car, was like, okay, that's messed up. That's messed up. And of course, as we say, Anthony Hopkins is chewing the scenery because it's what he does. Because there are times, how do I say this? You get the impression at times that Van Helsing comes across antagonistically, even though he's not an antagonist. It's just little bits throw you off, you know? Raiden, did you see this back in the day? If you did, what do you make of it today? Raiden? Raiden? Oh, is he?
Raiden.
Cookie dough ice cream.
Once. Going twice.
Sold!
Raiden, you there?
Yeah, still there.
Ah,
There you go.
alright. Bram Stoker's Dracula, did you see this back in the day? If you did, what do you make of it today?
Unfortunately, I didn't, but I have heard stories about it, how Gary Oldman looks as the Count. You know, so a part of me does appreciate for it, even though I haven't seen it, but maybe in the future I'll check it out, see how just amazing it is from what I've heard. But yeah, I give my respect to it.
Oh, according to this, Monica Bellucci was one of Dracula's brides. I may have to go back and check that out again a little bit later, because I didn't even know she was in that movie. Oh, Ruby's just commenting. The laugh from the dad is supposedly his ex-wife's laugh, and John Goodman was in the first Revenge of the Nerds. I did not know that.
Me neither.
Okay. Shifting gears over to the world of professional wrestling a moment.
Alright.
Five potential opponents for Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 39. Austin is undoubtedly one of the biggest names in the wrestling community. The Attitude Era legend has had a successful career in WWE. Most recently, the veteran came out of retirement for a match at Mania 38, which, according to Madden President, actually woke her up after watching Rousey versus Charlotte. The former champion defeated Owens on the first. The former champion defeated Owens on the first night of the event. Since then, fans have been speculating whether the Rattlesnake will return to the ring for another high-profile bout. A recent report revealed that Austin was elated with his return and is open to listening to proposals for a potential match at WrestleMania 39. While nothing has been confirmed yet, the odds of the veteran returning for another Mania next year can't be ruled out. The following piece will look at 5 potential names that Stone Cold could face at Mania 39. 5. Baron Corbin. Corbin has been on a roll in the red brand in the last few weeks. The former Money in the Bank winner has seemingly found a new leash on life ever since being paired up with JBL. A heel with a heel. Who knew? The former Lone Wolf has been on a dominant run on the roster, making a quick work of several superstars. Given his phenomenal work as a heel, it wouldn't be a bad idea for the creative to pit him against Austin at Mania 39. Excuse me. WWE could have Corbin continue his dominant run on the main roster, only for the Attitude Era superstar to return to stop him in his stride. Austin Theory, absolutely not.
Ew.
Like Corbin, Austin Theory is another superstar fans love to despise. I agree on that bit. The up-and-coming superstar's career, when this guy's more insufferable than The Miz when he was in 2010, there's a problem. However, it's been going downhill recently. Well, that's because Daddy Vince ain't there for you anymore. Theory was recently unsuccessful in cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase on the US title. It's meant to be for a world title. Idiot. The 25-year-old cashed in on Seth Rollins' United States Championship. However, he lost a match after an attack from Bobby Lashley. On another note, Stone Cold is currently 57 years of age, thus there's only so much he can do inside the ring, hence a potential squash match against Austin Theory makes total sense. The creative could have Austin make a spectacular return at Mania 39 only to squash Theory to a victory. If you're going to have Stone Cold come back, at least have it go for a while, don't just be a squash. Number 3, Seth Rollins. That could work. Seth has been doing his best work in his career of WWE recently. The Visionary has perfected the art of cutting promos and seems to have the crowd in the palm of his hands in all his segments. His feud with Cody Rhodes was a testament to the same. While there are never any doubts of his caliber, the current US champion has shown on numerous occasions that he can work with anyone inside the ring. Hence, a 57-year-old veteran like Austin would make an appropriate opponent for the victory. Rollins could take big bumps and make Austin look like $1 million inside the ring. Also, their duels on the mic would make for an entertaining watch. Cena versus Stone Cold. That one seems more likely. The last time we saw Cena on TV was in June when he celebrated his 20th anniversary with the promotion. However, reporters revealed that the C-Nation leader could return for a match at Mania next year. While there is still a cloud over his potential opponent at the event, it wouldn't be surprising if WWE decides to pit the 16-time world champion in a dream match against Austin. The face of the Attitude Era going one-on-one against the face of the modern era of WWE would surely blow the roof off at SoFi Stadium in WrestleMania 19. And number 1, The Rock versus Austin one more time. No. And I'll get to my thoughts on that in a little bit. The Rock is currently rumored to take on Reigns for the undisputed title at Mania next year. However, nothing has been confirmed yet. There have also been rumors about Cody Rhodes winning the Rumble to dethrone the Tribal Chief at the Show of Shows next year. That would make a lot more sense. Cody deserves a redemption arc. If WWE decides to have Rhodes dethrone Reigns, a potential match between The Rock and Austin could be on the cards for Mania 39. As you know, the duo may have quite a bit of history between them and have had several wars in the past. Hence, WWE reigniting arguably the greatest rivalry in the company's history could be for best for business. Oh, it's best for business, so take a drink. Dang you, Triple H, for starting that 9 years ago. As nice an idea of Rock versus Austin is, we already have 3 classic WrestleManias with them going off at each other. WrestleMania 17 being their best. 19 comes a very close second, whereas 15, It comes in last, but it's by no means unentertaining because it kind of set the standard of what was to come. I think out of all those listed, the only one I would probably agree with more is Cena, and possibly agreeing with Rollins, but Theory and Corbin, absolutely not. Corbin. Now I'm going to be nice here. Corbin, the way he was in NXT, if he had come onto the roster and stayed as that, not a problem, because he was doing fine the way he was, but Daddy Vince had to get involved. I'm gonna make him my guy. Oh, great, he's gonna get future endeavored. If anything, for Stone Cold, you need to have somebody that's more tailored to the way he does things. Because Stone Cold's not a quick opponent. I mean, he can be fast if he needs to be, but it's not like, like an ideal dream match. It wouldn't be like, Michael's going after Ricky Steamboat, both of them in their respective primes. Stone Cold's a brawler, so you need somebody that can work with him best, and people that work with him the best are people like Bret Hart, Kurt Angle, Taker. Although, the way Taker is now, I don't think he could do another WrestleMania. No offense, Taker, but, AJ gave you your best send-off. Just saying. To our own people's champion in Raiden, which of those do you agree with the most, and what ones, like me, are you looking at and being like, oh, absolutely not?
Oh, easily Corbin and Theory. I don't like either of them personally, especially Theory. I mean, just something about him. I don't know, man. Of course, Pretty Boy. Of course, Vince was so very into him. That's why he had him win Money in the Bank. So like, that's a definite no on my part. Corbin, like you said, it was his Lone Wolf days, absolutely. But this current version of him, it ain't working.
No.
Maybe the only one that has kind of sort of piques my interest is possible Cena versus Austin. I mean, two generational guys that never faced off before. I mean, they had encounters, but I think for me that could be that. Though I don't watch that much of the Fed as much anymore, even with Hunter taking over. There's some stuff in marquee matches that might be interesting. So him versus Cena would be interesting. Rollins, I guess. And if anyone knows me, I don't have the nicest things to say about that man. But he is good in the ring. But I don't know. That could work too. I think those two would work for me. So the first two, get that shit out my face.
Same questions to Madam President.
I mean, give again, for someone who's been watching the more recent product, it's not all bad. I mean, Theory, as what they've done to him, it's like, again, they were trying to correct the mistakes that Vince made, considering they were basically a dumpster fire, and they're trying to basically put out that fire, and this is the only way they had to do it. I feel like that show a few weeks ago was just basically putting out three major fires at once. And what they're doing now with Theory, and actually work, I'm not saying that he's going to be Austin's opponent, no. He needs to move on from that, excuse me. So it might work. Corbin, he needs somebody that, like, not Austin to punch him in the throat, but just anybody to punch him in the throat, because especially since they paired him with JBL, I don't know why they brought him back, but whatever. So I still don't want Corbin to face Austin. I'm just not on the not sure. So it's not for us to speculate. So I kind of don't have an answer either way. So they decide I'm okay with.
Okay. Let's see. What can we go with? This is something that someone asked me recently. Hypothetical scenario. If Stone Cold is presented with a title opportunity, should he take it?
No.
And I
We
have
have
this,
enough part-timers. No, thank you.
and I have this to say. From what little I saw of Austin versus Owens at WrestleMania 38 this year, Stone Cold did do a lot better than most people would have expected. Okay, it wasn't the most scientific match that he's ever had, say in comparison to WrestleMania 13's Austin versus Bret Hart, which, by the way, still easily one of the greatest matches that pay-per-view has ever seen. But at the same time, for a guy who has not stepped foot in a wrestling ring since his loss to The Rock at 2003's WrestleMania 19, he did alright. And word on the wire is that Stone Cold was so elated about how the match went that he's eager to listen to more opportunities that WWE may have for him. It'd be intriguing to see how we do with Cena Rollins, as mentioned in a previous article. War with The Rock, I'm going to say this, I've had 3 great Mania matches with those two, I'm good. But what if the opportunity presented itself where he was named as the challenger to the Undisputed Champion? I'm of 2 minds. 1. The young fan in me would love for that to happen, given how so often he was cheated out of titles, one of which was notably against Jericho at No Way Out 2002, which the NWO cost him the belt. I always feel like he was owed that one last 7th reign. And considering what Steve has given to the business, I'd say one more reign is fair. 2. Now this is where I am that guy. As much as I'd like to see it, we'd have another situation from 2013 where a lot of critics argued that Rock was not deserving of his title shot against Punk at Royal Rumble 2013. But then again, you can make the same argument with the way Cena was spoon-fed title shots during his heyday. And let's say they did go ahead with Stone Cold defeating Reigns for the belt. It'd be another part-timer situation like Rock, Lesnar, and Goldberg. Because Steve's living life as an actor, podcaster, as a TV host with shows like Redneck Island and Broken Skull Ranch. So again, I'm split with this, but I'm probably leaning more to the latter. I mean, the kid in his late teens and early 20s would be like, yeah, he was cheated multiple times, give him that one last reign, but it's just like, what does that say for the belt? What does that say for a guy like Roman Reigns? Say what we will about him, he's been champion now for 2 straight years. If you're going to have someone defeat him, have someone take the belt off him that may not necessarily have the belt as equally as long as him, but allow them to have their own defining title reign. Raiden, what do you make of that?
What's the question?
If Stone Cold was presented a title opportunity against Roman Reigns, should he take it?
Well, if it's a one-time thing, yeah, yes. But if you want to do, what if it's for multiple things? Yeah, that's a kind of a no-go for me. So.
And Madam President, you've already kind of said no go.
No, I agree. No, go. Just that. I don't see the point. No.
There would be one nice silver lining if he did do it, even if it's just say like for 1 week, he'd bring back the Smoking Skull belt. At least that actually looks like a world title compared to the piece of crap they got at the moment.
I mean, fair, but it's like leave stuff in the past. I like Austin, but I've had enough of part-timers. Just stop.
Coming up for Royal Rumble, Goldberg versus Roman Reigns again.
No. Nah. No.
Oh dear. I think we got time for one more. I mean, there's no point asking Kaiju and Steve about wrestling because Steve would automatically call Mulligan and Kaiju go, I have some strong opinions. I don't give a shit.
I will have you know that I strongly don't give a shit.
Well swung, sir. Well swung. Why Toonami shift to horror anime is great for the late night block. Adult Swim's aging Toonami programming block looks to be swinging towards original horror projects, which could be a great thing. Anime and manga are 2 of the most popular cultural exports of Japan. They have found a boisterous audience in the West, significantly dominating pop culture and even outselling domestic comics. Well, it's because the mangas actually tell a good story, whilst most comic books like to shove an agenda down people's throats. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? Characters from My Hero Academia and Attack on Titan are as prevalent as conventions at Marvel's Avengers or DC's Justice League. Streaming services continue to invest heavily in anime programming, from upcoming thank you, Junji Ito, adaptations to continuations for Avatar: The Last Airbender. Although Avatar technically is not an anime, technically. It is,
and it's not adult programming.
no. I mean, I will say, Avatar is very anime inspired in the similar context of, say, the Batman was, but they're not animes.
And Teen Titans.
Yeah.
OG Teen Titans.
The latter of which are arriving more than 10 years later after the series received its last episode. It's hard to ignore just how popular anime and manga become in such a relatively short time. And Japan have actually started doing their own version of, of RWBY. After, Monty did his own original version, 10 years ago. Japan have come along and said, okay, we'll take a crack at it. And visually, it looks gorgeous. Now with the advent of the streaming age, it's easier than ever to get your Japanese animation whenever and wherever you want. This spells trouble for Adult Swim's Toonami. It was at one point the most accessible way to view some of the most beloved anime series, but now it faces a conundrum. How can a cable programming block compete with streaming? Toonami made anime possible. It did. If you're a fan of anime, you've likely heard of Adult Swim's programming block Toonami at some point in your life. Airing every Saturday night, it was originally one of the most readily accessible sources of anime for the West, introducing an entire generation to the likes of Dragon Ball Z, Mobile Suit Gundam, and Voltron. Gundam Wing's my personal preference. While the block originally ended in 2008, it was briefly revived as part of Adult Swim's annual April Fool's prank in 2012 before being permanently reinstated in May. Since then, the block has continued to air new episodes of currently running anime in addition to the other adult-orientated programs owned by its parent company, Warner Bros. Discovery. The revival of Toonami in 2012 brought a few surprises, namely Space Dandy. It was the first time an anime series premiered on Toonami before arriving in Japan. Original program has also filled Toonami's lineup in recent years, with shows like Blade Runner, Black Lotus, and Shenmue, the animation being co-produced by both Adult Swim and Crunchyroll. But the entertainment world has changed significantly since 2012, hasn't it just? On-demand streaming, next-day availability, and exclusive licensing deals have quickly taken over the most readily available way to access anime. Just look at HIDIVE, there's tons of good stuff on there. While some shows are available on Adult Swim's website or HBO Max, but for how much longer, considering HBO Max is supposed to be going away, there isn't much available compared to dedicated streaming services. Toonami's shift to the horror genre. Toonami is no stranger to horror. Over its history, it's been home to a multitude of horror anime, from the admittedly few offerings available, including Akira, Paranoia Agent, and Hellsing Ultimate. While its parent network is more well known for its relaxed atmosphere and colourful experimentation, the late night setting also happens to fit well for spooking the viewer. After all, it had no qualms about introducing screamers into several of its channel bumpers to promote the surrealist horror show The Heart She Holler.
Lord Jesus,
Let me guess, not something you watch with the lights out.
yeah.
I'll take that as a yes.
Let's just say it goes.
Some bumpers even became legendary for just how unsettling they were. Take, for instance, The Dawn Is Your Enemy, a channel bumper that served to transition Adult Swim into the daytime programming of Cartoon Network. The low industrial hum, the startling detail of a pair of eyes staring directly at the viewer, and the looming threat of something creeping just above the horizon scared the hell out of many a young viewer. Keeping in mind, this is Toonami's 25th anniversary, brought the announcement of a brand new original anime series with it, Housing Complex C. It follows the story of Kimi Shirikado and Yuri Koshide as the duo encounter increasingly strange occurrences emanating from their housing complex. As the bodies of animals begin to pile up, I see where this is going already, and tenants begin disappearing from the property, a world of horror lies in wait for not just Kimi and Yuri, but all the housing complex. The 4-episode miniseries was conceived as a stopgap following production delays of Uzumaki, an adaptation of Junji Ito's prolific series that was initially announced in 2019. While Housing Complex C may have been made for that purpose, it reflects a gradual shift in programming priorities for the Toonami. Capitalizing on its ability to produce exclusive shows, Toonami has started shifting focus towards an unexpected direction, being a home for horror anime. According to an exclusive interview with Comic Book, Jason DeMarco and Maki Terashima Furuta, thank you, co-founder of Toonami and producer of Housing Complex C respectively, discussed there is currently a gap in available horror anime. Just go look on Netflix and High Dive. You'll find a few horror-related stuff. There's some stuff I won't watch at night. Sorry. Based on the positive reception towards Housing Complex C and hype for the upcoming Uzumaki adaptation, there is potential for Toonami to carve out a unique niche for itself in a sorely lacking market. Whether new shows will be based on existing properties made by mangakas, okay. Yeah, I've never heard that word before.
Oh, mangakas. Mangaka is a comic book creator in Japan.
Oh, okay.
So technically, I'm a mangaka as well.
Oh, okay. Or be.
It just means you write or draw manga.
Awesome. Or be wholly original remains to be seen. Realistically, Toonami is at a severe disadvantage when compared to streaming services, though Game Rant, I've heard about them, reported that Warner Bros. Discovery has no plans to change Toonami's stagnant ratings, and increased competition from streaming services have put it in a precarious spot. The cancellation of Batgirl, Madam President has a few things to say about that, and rumors that Cartoon Network was on the chopping block certainly haven't helped matters. Nonetheless, with the success of Housing Complex C and the upcoming Uzumaki adaptation, it looks like Toonami may successfully transition into its newfound niche. The block has always found a relatively low profile compared to other Adult Swim programming, but placing its bets on horror anime may give it an edge over its competition. Well, this is something Raiden will probably agree with. He and I don't necessarily have a lot of time for heel Triple H, but heel Triple H once said something very poignant. Adapt or fail. Shut up, Watch. And I think looking at this, Adult Swim and Warner Brothers as well, respectively, are just, looking at this thinking, okay, what do we do to fix this situation? How can we actually save this? Because I don't think it's necessarily for a business perspective. Some of it may be maybe for sentimental reasons. Nobody wants to see Toonami disappear again.
Of course.
So, an anime, I don't know what it is, but in the last few years, there's been such a shift from people switching from Western styled animation more over to anime, because I think with anime in particular, the way when it's translated for the English dubs, they do have their messages in there, but it's more subtle rather than a lot of Western entertainment where they just shove all these agendas into your face and like, okay, get out of my face, I just want to be entertained, not lectured. Whereas whether it's Ghost in the Shell, whether it's... Because sometimes there are some messages in DBZ where you look at it and think, there's something to think about there. They're just moments where it makes you think. And it's a similar thing, whether it's with Call of the Night or Vampire in the Garden. With Call of the Night, you get the sense of sometimes people are just looking for someone as companionship, as is the case with Nazuna, because she can't see Ko until the night falls, even though she can walk about during the daytime because she's immune to sunlight. Why the author had it as that, I don't know, but the rules of vampirism, the lore of it, change from adaptation depending on what the writer, wants the story for it to be. And with Vampire in the Garden, a relationship between a human and a vampire is viewed as taboo as same-sex relationships were viewed back in the day. And it's one of those, like I say, it's one of those that makes you think, and like Lids brought up at one point, Buffy's mother looked at being a vampire slayer in the same context as being a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
When they're done like that, where it's more of a sort of, hand in your, chin in your hand sort of stance of like, okay, that's actually very thought-provoking, as opposed to the, you will like this character for its background. I was like, okay, that's enough. Get out. The characters, whether it be from Golden Time, if you ever check that out on High Dive, I do thoroughly recommend that, especially for a character that's dealing with amnesia and not really knowing who he is anymore, and struggling with the fact that it's kind of pushing his relationship with his girlfriend away and other friends because his former personality keeps coming back, interfering with his current personality. So, and there are some horror animes, as Raiden's pointed out, there's some that it just goes to some places, particularly Blood the Last Vampire, 22 years ago. I visually, that is still an amazing piece to this day. And even Blood Sea, that, I don't know which,
I've seen highlights of that shit.
I don't know which one is more of a mindfuck, whether it's the TV series or the sequel movie, because I haven't been back to revisit those for some time, probably for good reason, but it's one of the very few times that I've actually had more sympathy for Saya, because she starts off as like the sweet, innocent girl, but as the story continues to progress, you notice a tone shift. It gets a lot darker and a lot more, I don't want to say emotional, but it's definitely within that ballpark.
Right.
And, Warner Brothers are doing what they can, because, it's as I said all those years ago, it might have been on either one of the very few early seasons of SKL or when we were doing RDR, and I made the point of saying, people are going over to streaming because TV's dying. And, you get A-logs saying, oh, I don't want my TV to die. It's like, no, your TV's not going to die. You just use the TV for other purposes. Instead of watching it through cable or satellite, you're watching it via the internet. And as we know, with streaming services, best to my understanding, provided it's not a live signal, say like a sports game, you don't need a TV license for it. And I think, with the BBC license disappearing in 2028, thank the good Lord for that, it won't happen straight away. But I think within the next 15 to 25 years, TV stations will be completely on streaming. Because I think that's the way it's going. And as sad as this is to admit as well, I think you might see the same thing with physical media with one possible exception, there is a huge demand for vinyl at the moment because there is a sound quality with vinyl, and I only base this on what people have said to me. There's a sound quality with vinyl you don't get on CD or digital. There's something, I don't want to say a little extra crisp to it, but it's something that there's a little bit more to it. As for me, I will continue to support physical media for as long as possible because here's the thing. If you download a movie, say, via iTunes or Amazon, and you can't get back into your account, you've lost that content. Nice thing with a DVD or a Blu-ray, once you've bought it, that's yours to keep. It's not going to get edited on Netflix or Amazon, because Netflix have been heavily editing a lot of stuff from what I've been hearing lately. When you have, like, say, I don't know, the crazy exploitations of Raiden invading Paul Feig's office and rewriting scripts overnight, that can be all uncut. Or, I don't know, Kaiju Conquers Hollywood. He has it done the way he wants it. On DVD or Blu-ray, doesn't get edited. So, yeah. Long tangent. I can see this working for Toonami, but there's seeing it working, and then there's the payoff, because many things have had promise back in the day and never paid off, like the XFL. And there's Raiden just cringing at that. It's like, no.
I'm good off that.
So Stephen, what do you make of Toonami shifting over to horror anime? Do you see the potential, or do you think it's just a desperate Hail Mary?
Just depends what type of horror anime they try to go for. I mean, there's several different variations in the genre.
Yes.
Might be a way to try and branch out, considering how much Warner Brothers has screwed off a lot of the departments of late.
Oh boy.
As I've mentioned several times before.
Yes.
But don't really know. Can't really say much other than that.
All right. Madam President, what do you make of the shift into horror anime for Toonami?
I mean, it's not a bad idea. It's like, anime isn't just action bullshit and cutesy anime girls. There is a lot of darkness to it, and I'm glad that they're exposing their audience to a lot more than what the typical anime offers you, like the Dragon Balls and the My Hero Academias and the One Punch Mans of the world. A little bit of horror isn't a bad thing. Whether I want to watch that at late at night is beside me, but I did learn something. If you feel alone, just put on something horror related. You won't feel alone anymore. I'm sorry, that's my meme for the day. But yeah, it's a decent idea. Whether that'll pay off, it might, because again, it is Toonami, so who knows.
Raiden, same question.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, if anything, like, of course you got your OGs like My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, and of course the sequel to Inuyasha, Yashimine, I think. So I think that's what it's pronounced. But you can never go wrong with Riot. And I've heard Housing Complex is pretty decent. And I'm just chomping at the bit. Cannot wait for Uzumaki, for Junji Ito's work. Cause last month I've been binge watching Linkara's Long Box of the Damned, and just hearing about all these Junji Ito stories, like his version of Frankenstein, and just those short stories. Part of me is looking forward to that, especially how much he's very intricate with the art he creates and just the horror. So it'll be good to see that real. I think it's a really
Definitely
good
highly.
fiction.
Sorry, I do want to say I do highly recommend Junji Ito's work, and his adaptation of Frankenstein is amazing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a sad tale, but the way he illustrates it, yeah, good stuff. So, in conclusion, it's a good idea on Tsunamis part to just give us a new genre of anime that you don't really see it as much, especially how Tsunami back in the day was just full blown action. So I like the variety.
All right. Last and certainly never least, Kaiju. What do you make of it?
I mean, so first off, I want all you guys to answer me this simple question: Do you watch Toonami now?
Not on my current cable subscription, no.
I keep a couple episodes tape of Yashimine, and then
Ooh. Don't have
But do you
access
watch
to the
it-
network.
Do you watch it while it's while it's airing?
sometimes.
I don't have.
Okay, so that's
I don't have
so
a
that's
bill.
a no, and a sometimes. Steve,
Don't have access to the network, so no.
so that's another no. And Lydia,
Sorry, what was the question?
do you watch Toonami currently?
I don't have cable, so no.
So that's 3 no's and a kinda. So this pretty much shows that, like, just from this sampling of people here in this chat, in this call, people generally do not watch Toonami. I certainly haven't watched Toonami probably since they aired. Probably, what was it? Like when it first came on, I was watching Dead Man Wonderland and Casher and Sins, maybe a little bit of Dragon Ball Super, but like it's been years since I've watched Toonami, and I'm sure a lot of people generally do not watch Toonami currently. They want to have Toonami around. People certainly want to have Toonami around, but with the current state of things, people in general, our age demographic, the demographic that they want to appeal to, it's simply not it's not working. I wouldn't be surprised if the Toonami block is barely hanging on by a thread at this point. But then again, the majority of traditional television, is hanging on by a thread, because the masses have been slowly shifting their focus and priorities towards streaming. So it doesn't surprise me at all that Toonami would be trying to look for some means of something to make them stand out and draw people in. And what do? You offer something that's not available on the market. So we look at, say, Crunchyroll, we look at Netflix, we look at the Funimation's own streaming site, we look at Retro Crush, we look at the High Dive. They all provide all kinds of anime. So I'm sure the people at Toonami were like, okay, people are not watching us for anime because there's so many other sources for anime, so we got to showcase something that's not available on the market. And it happens to be that there's apparently a lack of horror anime elsewhere. So they decide, okay, if we can get our hands on that shit, then we might have an edge. We might have a niche audience to latch onto. So yeah, it's as simple as that. And given the current state of entertainment, I certainly wish them the best if this is the direction they wish to go in, and if this is the content that will bring in a healthy dose of ratings.
All right. Actually, a very good perspective there. Oh, Sean Retro is saying also with regards to physical media, don't forget VHS tapes. Yeah, you're kind of on your own with that one, Sean. No offense, but I mean, to be fair, to give VHS their due, they lasted a small while, whereas DVD has easily outlasted them. With regards to that, it's like anything. It's like rule of thumb in business. If people keep buying them, they'll keep making them. I choose to support physical media because, for me, I'm a sentimental guy. I like to be able to say I physically hold something in my hand and that I claim ownership to it. It's trivial for some people, but for me, the small things are important. That'll about do it for this week, I think. We are back next Sunday for SKL. Normal time of 6 p.m. UK time and 1 p.m. Eastern time and 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And as ever, for game night, I am back on midnight Tuesday this week UK time, 7 p.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. Pacific, and that's the same for Jurassic Wednesdays, where we continue, I say continue in air quotes, Steve, we continue to fix Jurassic Park San Diego again.
Oh, yeah.
Note to people who are listening to this, if you've never played Chapter 2 of Chaos Theory, I have one simple golden bit of advice. Do not let the Tyrannosaurs die before you can actually recreate them, because the moment they're gone,
Money drops.
the profits take a nosedive.
Yikes.
Yeah. You're probably more in the red than Ric Flair's financial situation at times. And remember Ric Flair Finance in 2008? He started his own loaning company and went bankrupt.
That I did not know. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's why he started wrestling for TNA. Yeah, the less we say about that, the better.
Yeah, he didn't want to retire, but WWE made him do that.
Yeah. Right. Until next time, I have been the Knight, saying good night from the night.
Alright, I have been the Awesome One, and join me and Oni tonight on my channel, twitch.tv/Kitsune Rokaku, because Oni will be starting his run of Pokemon Violet, where we start the Kit versus Oni, Scarlet versus Violet run. Who will finish? We don't know, unless the game decides to die. Funny topical joke. I'm sorry, I'm making that joke right now.
We gotta catch them all first,
We gotta catch them all if they don't fuse we don't fuse with our Pokemon.
You gotta catch all them glitches first. You gotta catch all the bugs. And I'm not talking the bug type Pokemon.
Alright, but yeah, anyway, catch us tonight at around like 8 o'clock Eastern, so hopefully our game doesn't die, so we'll see you then.
Who loses their patience first, the player or the game?
Yes.
Yes!
Yeah.
Always.
Will we miss a shiny? We don't know.
Are there even shinies programmed in?
There
Who
are!
knows?
Like, I've seen, the thing about that is there's no shiny noise. You just have to look around.
And only apparently
Is it
four.
That's boring.
Yeah, I know, but
It is what it is. Also, don't forget to buy Kaiju Noir's book, Primal Warrior Draco Azul, available on Amazon.com, Kindle, and Comixology.
Exactly, and my new novel, Primal Warrior Draco Azul, Soulless Blood.
Along with the crossover novel, Comic Rex 5.
Exactly, which is a crossover with my other giant robot IP, Bravura, the Wandering Soldier.
Remember, read it, like it, share it, and review it.
Absolutely. Those are the things that help us indie creators as they go a long way towards getting the attention of other people who may enjoy my work.
And also, don't forget to buy either the t-shirt or the coffee mug from my Teespring store, inspired by Raiden's catchphrase, "Your L's sustain me."
Yeah, yes. Give me money so I'll keep the lights up and hopefully a more comfortable bed before I stuff myself. Because giving known as thanks.
Okay. Right, we're gonna go raid the little lemon bun because, well, she's a fun Twitch streamer and she's currently playing Pokemon Scarlet.
Yep.
She's
Oh.
she's an absolute sweetheart. So wholesome, so friendly, so bright. You know, this is just suggested, but give her a follow and a sub because she's worked. Like Oni, she's worked for all her subs and her subscriptions. So do give her a look. Well, this is us signing out. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Yeah.
Hi, just mate, welcome in. How you doing?